In the space between what happens to you and how you choose to respond lies the power to transform not just the moment, but the entire trajectory of your life. And that is the thought for today. Welcome to 7 Good Minutes. I'm Clyde Lee Dennis. Thanks for joining me for what I believe will be 7 of the most enriching minutes of your day. In today's episode of 7 Good Minutes, we talk about transforming your life and shifting from reaction to mindful response. Enjoy. Between every stimulus and your response lies a space, a sacred pause where your true power resides. In this brief moment, you have the opportunity to choose who you want to be, how you want to show up, and what kind of energy you want to bring into the world. This is the difference between reaction and response, and it's one of the most transformative skills you can develop. By the end of this episode, you'll understand how to recognize that precious space between trigger and action, and how to use it to respond from your highest self, rather than react from old patterns and conditioning. We live in a world that seems designed to trigger reactions. Someone cuts you off in traffic, and anger flares instantly. A colleague makes a critical comment, and defensiveness rises before you can think. Your child spills something, and frustration erupts automatically. These reactions feel so immediate, so natural, that we often believe we have no choice in them. But that's not true. The difference between reaction and response is profound. A reaction is automatic, unconscious, driven by past conditioning and emotional patterns. It happens without thought, often leaving us feeling out of control and sometimes regretful afterward. A response, on the other hand, is conscious, intentional, aligned with our values and who we want to be in the world. Think of reaction as being hijacked by your emotions and past experiences. Something happens, and before you know it, you're speaking or acting from a place of hurt, fear, anger, or defensiveness. You're not really present. You're operating from old programming, repeating patterns that may have served you once, but no longer align with who you're becoming. Response is different. Response comes from presence, from awareness, from choice. When you respond, you're fully here, fully conscious, able to access your wisdom, compassion, and clarity. You're not denying your emotions. You're feeling them, acknowledging them, but not being controlled by them. The key to shifting from reaction to response lies in developing what we might call the pause. This is a brief moment of conscious awareness between what happens to you and how you choose to act. It's not about suppressing your initial emotional response. That's natural and human. It's about creating enough space to choose what comes next. This pause can be as simple as taking one conscious breath. In that breath, you create space. You step back from the immediate emotional charge and remember that you have options. You can ask yourself, how do I want to respond to this? What would my best self do right now? What response would I be proud of later? Sometimes the pause needs to be longer. If someone says something that really triggers you, you might need to say, let me think about that and get back to you. Or, I need a moment to process this. There's no shame in taking time to respond thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively. The practice of pausing becomes easier when you understand that your first emotional reaction is information, not instruction. When anger arises, it's telling you something. Perhaps that a boundary has been crossed or that something important to you feels threatened. When hurt surfaces, it's showing you where you're vulnerable or what you care about deeply. These emotions are valuable messengers, but they don't have to be your commanders. Learning to respond, rather than react, also requires developing emotional awareness. Throughout your day, practice noticing what you're feeling without immediately acting on it. Notice the physical sensations that accompany different emotions. The tightness in your chest when you're anxious, the heat in your face when you're angry, the heaviness in your stomach when you're disappointed. This awareness creates natural pause points. When you feel that familiar tightness or heat or heaviness, it becomes a signal to slow down, to breathe, to choose your next move consciously, rather than automatically. Response also comes from knowing your values and who you want to be. When you're clear about what matters most to you, kindness, integrity, patience, courage. These become your North Star in challenging moments. Instead of reacting from old wounds or fears, you can respond from your values, asking yourself, what would kindness look like right now? How can I act with integrity in this situation? This doesn't mean becoming passive or allowing others to treat you poorly. Sometimes a conscious response is firm, clear, and strong. The difference is that it comes from choice rather than compulsion, from wisdom rather than woundedness, from your present self rather than your past conditioning. The beautiful thing about developing this skill is that it transforms not just individual moments, but your entire life. When you consistently respond rather than react, your relationships improve. People feel safer around you because they know you won't lash out unpredictably. Your own stress levels decrease because you're not constantly being hijacked by emotional reactions. You also begin to trust yourself more. When you know you can pause, breathe, and choose your response, you feel more confident navigating difficult situations. You're not at the mercy of your emotions or other people's behavior. You're the conscious author of your own actions. Start small with this practice. Choose one area of your life where you tend to react automatically. Maybe it's with your family, or in traffic, or when you're stressed at work. In that area, commit to practicing the pause. Before you speak or act, take one conscious breath and ask yourself, how do I want to respond to this? Remember, this is a practice, not a perfection. You'll still react sometimes. We all do. The goal isn't to never have emotional reactions, but to gradually increase the space between stimulus and response. To give yourself more and more opportunities to choose who you want to be in each moment. In that space between what happens to you and how you respond lies your freedom, your power, and your opportunity to create the life and relationships you truly want. That does it for today's episode of 7 Good Minutes. Please take a moment to rate and review the show on the platform you're listening on. Until next time, let's be civil to one another out there. Thanks for listening.